Hey guys, and welcome to the Hobby News. All right, so this week we got some Blood Bowl to check out, and a really fun star player, which is just pretty sweet. But we're going to check that out in a second, and then finally, some wonderful land train action for Necromunda. I'm sure you've all seen the images of it, but we'll check it out anyway and see what they say about it. But that should be fun too. So basically, a bunch of sub game stuff this week or coming up for next week. It's all looking pretty cool. I really like this Blood Bowl stuff. So I didn't cover this when they first previewed this team we're about to look at, but we're going to look at it now. So I think we've looked at like a couple of the miniatures, but not the whole lot. So yeah, pretty cool. So let's get into it. So with Blood Bowl, we've got the Norse team. So a new Blood Bowl team joins the carnage on the pitch next week. Before we meet the players, let's check out their highlight reel. Okay, cool. So yeah, basically we've got a new Norse team here, and really fun. I like all the little additional pieces, like the hammer there, the coin and so on, and these little, I don't know what they are, the little, boars with the keg on the back. I don't know what that's for, but it looks cool. So that's a good thing. Probably some kind of mascot or cheerleader maybe. I don't know what they're for, but yeah, pretty cool. I do like the miniatures. I think they're nice. Again, looking at these a little bit closer, I say this a lot with all the sub-game stuff, but I could see some really nice conversions for your own sort of custom Chaos Warband for like Marauder style models for a Chaos Army in Age of Sigmar. These would actually make pretty fun ones because their armors are all out. You could easily convert those hands with weapons and so on. Actually, this could be pretty fun. You could do a nice theme, sort of old style Warhammer Old World style Marauder warband kind of thing, with the sort of the bear motif, or wolf pelts, that sort of thing. You could do some nice things there. I think that'd be pretty cool. But because those old Marauder molds now, they're pretty dated these days. I'm sure they'll eventually redo them, but these models are a lot fresher, and there's not a lot on here that really makes them be Blood Bowl models, without the painted numbers and so on their shoulder pads. I'm assuming these are flat when they're in the raw plastic, so there's not a lot on here that indicates that they're a player. They're just in cool action poses. These running poses would be great if you put some axes in their hand or shields, that sort of thing. They could be really cool. Even these sort of ones here with the grizzled old warrior with the beard and so on, and the wolf pelt, that could be really fun conversion. So yeah, I don't know. All in all, I really like these. I think they're good. As I said all the time, Blood Bowl is just a great game. It's lasted all these years and just has a great range and a really solid, supportive community that really backs it and plays it both competitively and socially. So yeah, really, really cool. I like this a lot. So yeah, let's see what else they got. So we've got this now. We've seen this one before. I'm pretty sure I talked about this a while ago. So yeah, I like the star players. They have these big guys. These are fun models. As I said, a little bit more of almost a Blizzard or World of Warcraft kind of vibe coming from this. There's a lot more sort of exaggeration on the anatomy going on this one, which is kind of a slightly different direction than what Games Workshop always exaggerate their forms, but not quite as heavily as Blizzard does with their World of Warcraft and so on. Games Workshop still kind of reins it in a little bit. Most of their exaggeration just comes purely because they're designing figures for a small scale miniature. That's mostly why they exaggerate it. But you can see from their artwork that it's a lot more in scale when they do their illustrations. But the models tend to be a bit oversized in certain proportions, the head, the hands, and so on. But here we're getting quite a deliberate exaggeration of those forms, which I discussed on the last time we looked at this. But we've got a second one. Now, I don't know whether this is new or not. I'm assuming it is. This is great. This has a lot of character. Whoever sculpted this, did a great job. You really get a good sense of the type of character this is and what sort of person, not person, but monster it is. Everything about it is really fun. The expression on the face, the little curls in the beard. This would have been a fun one to design for sure. Even the little scarf around the neck. There's a lot of flavor here, a lot of really nice, interesting stuff going on. And I'm sure the sculptor had fun, or the designers had fun when they were doing this one, because this is the whole reason why I love Blood Bowl and Necromunda Necromunda and all those games, just for little notes like this. I mean, yeah, just to paint this up would be cool, right? So yeah, really cool on that one. And then finally, we've got a couple of these human star players. So yeah, just classic Norse kind of stuff, with the beards and so on, the kegs, all good there. And then our sort of classic kind of, I guess, Thor type character here, with the winged helmet and so on. Yeah, really cool. But again, these could make some good conversions for AOS. I feel like there's plenty of room here, and they sort of have enough elements of their anatomy exposed so that you can actually like change things out and do a bit of converting here, and it would be relatively easy. So I really like that about them. That's actually quite versatile. So yeah, pretty cool. Then we have our usual books for next week, and so on, which you can, I guess, if you're into that, they'll be coming out, I suppose, for pre-order. Yeah, all in all, pretty cool. And then obviously your toys and so on. I think that's all pretty good for that. Let's now take a look at that star player, which is, I think, has a special place in my heart. I love halflings, and I think this is just amazing. So his name is Rambunctious Rumbellow Sheepskin, I guess that's his name. And look at this. This is just great. Halfling on a sheep, on a ram. That's just, you can't go wrong with that concept. As you can see from this, he's just having a great old time on the back there. Yeah, everything about this is awesome. I love the face. I love how sort of Hobbit-like it is, with the hair and the sort of really angular features, the big jutting jaw and so on, the big mouth, the big nose. Everything about this is just so much fun to paint. The little bit of fur on the tummy. This reminds me so much of the old days of old halfling models and the old halfling stuff for Blood Bowl and the early Lord of the Rings models from, the beginning of the 2000s. Yeah, there's so much history just in this design, not just for Blood Bowl, but for halflings generally. It's such a great thing, and I'm tempted just to get this just to paint it up because it brings a real smile to my face. I mean, anyone that's been around this hobby for long enough, whether you play fantasy, AOS, or whatever, or anything fantasy related, or you're just a hardcore 40k buff, I can imagine this will still bring a smile to your face. I mean, who doesn't love halflings? So yeah, just a really cool model. I'm sure that the sculptors and the designers really had a lot of fun with this. It wouldn't have been hard to do, pretty easy sculpt, but just the attention to the expression and the gesture here for this little halfling is really great. You don't have a lot of room to play with it with a figure like this. There's only like basically hands and feet and a little stomach, plus a head. But to get that much dynamism in such a small area is actually quite difficult, and a real I commend the sculptor on that because it is hard. I myself sculpt. If you don't know, you can check the link in the down there, Blighted Gods, and you'll see all my stuff. It's, all sort of demons and undead, that sort of thing. And, sculpting, it's tough. It takes a long time. And to get this good where you're getting all of that expression it takes a lot of years of practice, I can tell you. But yeah, really great. So let's see, we've got some close-ups here. Yeah, the rams are nice, good detail. It's going to be fun to paint. The only thing is the fur seems a bit strange. It looks like noodles. I'm not quite sure whether that's just in the sculpt or the way they've painted it, but it looks a little strange there with this. That's probably the only part of this model that's a little bit odd, is the thick curls on here. Don't feel quite natural. I'm not sure why that is, but everything else about it is pretty cool. So, we'll let that pass just because look at this face. Just to paint that little face and the little stomach there and the hands, this little area here would be just so much fun. You can do all those little glazes into the nose and into the mouth, under the eyelids there, the purples, the reds. If you have a look at my channel, I do a lot of color glazing videos and a lot of attention to that type of painting process. It's really easy to get into. If you check any of those videos out, it's a good next step if you're learning about color and you find painting those colors in and building up the layers and the highlights a bit daunting. One way that you can get into color theory is through that type of color glazing, because it's essentially like a wash, like you would do with a shade color or an ink wash or any of those, except you're just adding more water to it and you're doing it more subtly in a more sort of gradient feathered approach as you put it on, and you're directing it into these areas rather than sort of washing over the whole area. So you end up with these little color changes, very subtle, but when you look at something like this, you can really see where it really punches up the face. You've got that nice, the bags under the eyes and so on. It's just giving you the indication that there's blood under the surface, which is called subsurface scattering. So you'll learn about that if you get into this sort of thing. You can see the discoloration down below the belly there. This sort of giving you the idea that, obviously he drinks. He's most halflings, I would imagine, are pretty much alcoholics, and you can see that there, the sort of the rosy color under the nose and across the mouth and the stomach and so on. So yeah, it's really great. This is a really good model to try that out on. So if you're interested in furthering your painting, definitely check out some of those color glazing videos, because it'll give you a good start just to understand how color works and how much you can add, how many colors are in everything. You might think, okay, metal only has metal colors, but it's reflective. It has a lot more than that. The surrounding environment, skin has all kinds of colors in it. You only have to look at your own skin, like look at the back of your hand, and you'll see reds, blues, greens, yellows, a whole range of colors, not just the sort of, this sort of flesh tone that you might think that it is. It's actually a lot more than that. So yeah, really fun. So okay, and then finally I think we'll go on to that land train. So they're going a la Star Wars here, and doing a land train, or like many other sci-fi universes. But it's interesting they call it a land train, because the first thing that I notice is that it's not actually a train, it's a truck. So it's a land truck, or semi-trailer with some carriages. There's no train about it. It's not on tracks, which is really weird why they call it a land train. But I guess that's kind of what I guess the land part of that phrase means on wheels, I suppose. I don't know, but it's not really a train. I guess it is, linked carriages, I suppose. But I still like it. I think this really reminds me a lot of Lego and a lot of those types of build a toy type block kind of things that you have as a kid. This really feels like that, something out of that sort of genre of toy, which is cool. Like, it's not a sledge on it. It's actually quite cool. It's a fun thing, to delve into that kind of nostalgia. And I can see a lot of really nice little dioramas and display boards and stuff like that using this model and the parts of it. It use these big shipping containers on the back, the little gunners on top, and you've got the additional here, the tray underneath that you can add them to. So I'm assuming you can buy many of these and then have a really long truck with all of these carriages on the back, which is really cool. And obviously the spot there for the gunner on top if you want to put the gunners on. So yeah, really, really fun idea. I'm assuming that means there's going to be campaign missions and and scenarios that to do with like hijacking this or protecting it, that sort of thing, like we've got in the picture here, and like they allude to in their narrative here for this, as you can see. But yeah, that's a classic idea. I think it's fun. They're definitely obviously playing around with the idea of vehicles in Necromunda and how that's going to look, and obviously larger monsters. So we'll see how that turns out. But it's looking pretty interesting. I like delving into these other areas, as I said before when we looked at some Necromunda stuff, that it is good to move out of the hive and see what else is out there, so that they can really dig into some fresh designs and give it a new look. Like, to me, when I look at this image, it almost doesn't even feel like 40k anymore. It looks like I'm seeing a different sort of sci-fi world, and that's nice. That's good. It adds a bit of freshness to like quite a set in stone sort of design aesthetic and narrative for 40k, which has kind of been in the same sort of narrative place for most of its life, hasn't really moved on. And so to sort of start showing some of those new ideas, even though they might have been there for a long time, but just showing them, it adds a bit of freshness to that world. And moves it along a bit. Same for when the squats are released. That will also add a new dimension, because we're going to see different types of technology, different areas of the 40k universe, that sort of thing, and sort of build out some of the grey areas or the darker spots in the narrative that haven't really been looked at. And I think that's all great, even if they're not going to push the narrative past, the 41st millennium or whatever, to flesh out all the areas of that map that haven't been looked at, I think is, definitely a good thing to do, because it's going to broaden the scope of what people can get into, which obviously is good for them, good for hobbyists and so on. So yeah, really cool. So I'm happy that all this is happening. It's really exciting. It's a great time to be in the hobby, that's for sure. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit that like button, subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I guess I'll catch you on the next one.